Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, March 9th, 2018. It's the WNW 325. Big news, folks. Big news. Trump agrees to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. This is at the New York Post. Trump tweet, Kim Jong-un talked about denuclearization with South Korean representative and not just a freeze. Now, there are some preconditions to this before this meeting in May that Kim Jong-un can't be working on his ballistic missile program. And I don't think Kim Jong-un, I'm just calling Un, is crazy. I think he's not crazy at all. I think he had the missiles. He didn't want to be removed from power. Anybody else that lost their upper hand, with their military or their nuclear missiles got thrown out of power. Look at Gaddafi. Look at Saddam Hussein. He didn't want to be the same. He didn't want to end up the same way. But I don't know what changed. I mean, could it have been a massive amount of pressure by Donald Trump and that he had a lot of military hardware in and going to the region? And reportedly, the U.S. military was planning some sort of a preemptive strike. Could that have been part of the reason? Now, people like Dr. Steve Pieczenik says that we weren't ready to go to war. He said that back in February. Other people like Jim Rickards, who said on the air on USA Watchdog, they think we're bluffing, but we're not. And I think that was part of it. The other part of it is these tariffs. Who is Donald Trump putting a tariff on? Well, a lot of people who make steel, that's China. Listen, people are worried about a trade war. We don't have a trade war. We're just firing back. We've been at war. That's why we have a $500 billion deficit every year with China. But could China have put pressure on North Korea? North Korea is propped up by China, period, the end. Could that be part of the reason why? Could it be the military reason? Could it be the economic reason? I don't know. And I don't have high hopes for the outcome of this, but it's better than war. And I think that's what Donald Trump was trying to do. He actually told John Roberts that. He says, people think I'm trying to go to war. I'm not. I'm trying to avoid war. And, he tried a completely different tact from past presidents, whether it be Bush or Clinton, Obama, completely different tact. He talked tough. And apparently, it's, at least that is in part what helped this breakthrough. Is it a total breakthrough? Are they going to really completely get rid of all their nuclear arms? I don't know, but it's better than war. And right now, war is off the table. They don't meet until May. Next headline, Donald Trump for economic nationalism imposes sweeping metals tariffs. This is on steel and rolled steel, cold rolled steel, and also aluminum. Now, it looks like they're going to be carve-outs for Mexico and Canada. But, those carve-outs came with, we need to renegotiate NAFTA. And this is the typical Trumpian. He says he's going to put tariffs on you and all that, and says, well, we'll settle, we'll negotiate. We'll have to renegotiate NAFTA, though, because we have a terrible deal. Again, this trade war is not a war. We've been getting creamed, and we haven't been fighting back. Everybody subsidizes this industry or that industry. The governments basically pay for the profits for the companies to make the steel or the aluminum or whatever it is, whatever product below the cost of producing it. Then it gets shipped to America, and America gets gutted a little more and a little more and a little more, and jobs disappear, and they travel overseas. They go to China, they go to Mexico, wherever. Mexico has a $100 billion trade deficit with the United States of America. Listen, if it was fair trade, and I'm all for fair trade, great, but as soon as America starts doing something like these tariffs, which I think is a negotiation ploy, everybody goes crazy because they don't want to lose their good deal. And their good deal is, we have these huge deficits. They do better than us. That's why there's a deficit. So I don't think there's a war. I just think we have just decided to start engaging other countries we're trading with, and like Trump says, try to get a fair deal. And he talked about all this stuff on the campaign trail. He talked about how real wealth is made, and it's with the manufacturing industry of America. He talked about how not having a steel industry and an aluminum industry is bad for, national defense. You can't have a war with, say, China and say, oh, by the way, could you send us, a few thousand tons of steel so we can make some tanks and planes and aluminum, and we make tanks and planes to bomb you? Can't do that. Now, China is playing hardball, too, and maybe they read the book, The Art of the Deal, but China threatens a tariff response that could seriously hurt international trade, the international trade order. Listen, folks. Not just the United States, every country on the planet, every major country, Russia has got money problems. They're cutting back on their military. Their military spending supposedly peaked in 2015. China has big debt problems. They have big problems. Everybody has massive debt problems. We grew the global debt from in 2008 to another 70 trillion to put off the problem. And listen, this isn't the world of 2003 when George Bush decided to put tariffs on China and it backfired. This isn't the world of Barack Obama. He too put tariffs on China, several 100% on cold rolled steel. He also did that. But nobody can afford any kind of loss of revenue because everybody is up to their gills in debt. And I think that this tariff thing and that China talking they're going to do something tough that'll disrupt the world. China has got a lot of debt. They're a very strong country, yes, but they too have a lot of debt, just like we do, just like Germany, just like the UK, just like Japan. I mean, there's a lot of debt out there. And and I don't think anybody wants to have a trade war. And I think this is probably Donald Trump's best shot at leveling the playing field. This is what he wants to do. He campaigned on this. This shouldn't be a big surprise. I want to bring up this, and I've been thinking about this. This is what I was going to leave with, but once the Kim Jong-un and meeting, with President Trump in May, for denuclearization talks, supposedly, that became the top story. But I wanted to talk about the Democrats. And I want to talk about what they have going for them, and that is illegal voting, basically. You had the Voter Integrity Commission that they disbanded, and the key states with, I think, major voter fraud these are the people that keep telling us, voter fraud's a myth. Election fraud's a myth. Well, good. We'd like to look at your election and your voter IDs and your voter rolls. We're like, no, you can't do that. It's a privacy issue. But voter fraud's a myth. And this is what this Jeff Sessions lawsuit is about. He's suing California over their sanctuary status and not helping ICE officers enforce the laws. States don't get to do immigration. That's under the federal purview. Immigration is done by the federal government, not the states. Now California says, oh no, we passed all these sanctuary city laws and these sanctuary laws because it's a public safety issue. Whose? Not the citizens. But here we have the fallout from this Jeff Sessions lawsuit that was this year. California war of words ramps up. Attorney General Jeff Sessions says that the legislators and governor have crossed the line, becoming a sanctuary state and now harboring roughly 2.5 million illegal aliens. I think most of them vote. California Governor Jerry Brown, in a typical liberal lunacy, foolishly labeled the perceived aggression as an act of war. Well, you know what? It is an act of war. States like California need illegal aliens voting. After all, I think I told you about this a week or so ago. They're issuing driver's licenses now in the state of California, and they're signing illegal aliens up to vote. But there's no voter fraud. There's no election fraud. Illegals aren't voting. And they need this. People don't realize this. There's probably about 18 million Republicans in California. And I think the illegal voting is the pad that the Democrats need to basically retain power. I do think that, and I've asked people this on the site. I've asked Democrats, I've asked trolls, whatever we call them. But I've asked this over and over again, is that, please, Democrats, tell me one idea that's a socialist, Marxist, or communist that will actually improve the lives of everyday American citizens. I'm not talking about DACA. I don't care about DACA. I don't care about kids that were brought here illegally by their parents. Those people should hate their parents for bringing them here illegally. They're illegal aliens. I don't care about the giveaways to DACA. What I care about are taxpayers in America paying for all this liberal largeness and these votes that keep the Democrats in power, because they don't have a single idea that will help average American citizens. Not a single one. And hang with me, I'm getting to where I'm going. Here is Kamala Harris on immigration. Sessions wants to roll back, because of this lawsuit, roll back the clock. California represents the future. The future. The 13 top percent tax rate of California is the future. The poop maps that you can find, many of which in California cities where the homeless are living by the tens of thousands. The people leaving California, the Second Amendment gun law restrictions, the First Amendment free speech restrictions, and them rioting in California universities, and the, did I tell you, super high tax rates? The open borders, the massive inflow of illegal aliens, which will also be a massive amount of welfare paid for by the taxpayers. That's the future you're painting, Kamala. That's the future. Communism, socialism, totalitarianism, the destruction of the Constitution, voter fraud, election fraud. That's your future? One idea. Give me one. One. And they don't have one. So where are we going? Where am I going with this? Here's what I think is going to happen in 2018. They're going to have no choice but to ramp up the voter and election fraud like you have never seen before. You hear about this, the blue wave in Texas. Really, what's the idea that they're toting down there? Donald Trump's a racist. What's the idea? You know, there's somebody campaigning against Ted Cruz. He's going to all these cities. Yeah, what's he saying? I'm coming to your city. Vote for me. What's the idea? They don't have one. They've given up on the working guy because they're deplorable. They're being funded by George Soros, who's a New World Order Luciferian whack job. Hillary Clinton, the almost leader of their party, said that there are limits to the Second Amendment, the Constitution, that's the right to bear arms. And there are limits to the First Amendment, too, your right to speak, and your freedom of religion. There's not one single idea that they have that's not, social justice, that's Marxism, Antifa, more communism, Marxism, income redistribution, that's more communism, universal basic income, communism, Obamacare, disaster, and communism, and that's what they have. So I think that, and Project Veritas documented it so well. The Bob Kramer character, who was at the White House dozens and dozens of times, got personal audiences supposedly with President Obama. Bob Kramer, Project Veritas, with the voter fraud and election fraud, that they caught on camera what they were doing and who was paying for it. And I think it's going to be off the charts in 2018. And this is why the lawsuits are happening, not just in California, but in other places too. It's going to be it is already a national security issue. It's no longer with the Voter Integrity Commission, I believe that's what it was called, that got disbanded because nobody, at least the states with the voter fraud, they would not play ball. It's a myth that there's voter fraud, but we're not going to help you look at any of the voting and any of the registration and who might be defrauding the country and who might be defrauding the electorate. And right. Come on, stop. The Division of Homeland Security is going to be looking into, and there's a big report coming out on that as well. And it's going to be pretty amazing. And what do the communists like to do? Well, they like to take over. And then, they like to kill people. And this is going on down in, not the killing people so far, but what's going on in South Africa is absolutely unbelievable. But the world press, it involves white people, kill them. It's okay. This is racist South Africa political leader Julius Malema says he's going to go after the white man. We're going to be cutting the throat of whiteness. They're getting ready for a race war down there, and it's over land. There are people in South Africa, white people, who've had big farms for generations. And now the communists that are in control of South Africa think it's a good idea and have passed, are in the process of passing laws to basically take the land away from the white farmers and give it to the black people down there. They tried this in Zimbabwe. It was a complete and total disaster. Although they didn't stop the United Nations from nominating Mugabe, the president there, their top human rights leader. but they're going to have a race war if they keep on the same track. But again, what do the communists do? Well, they kill you. You know, they and I'm not being so crazy about that either. They're talking about killing white people down there. And the Weather Underground, Larry Garthwald, who was a infiltrator in the Weather Underground back in the 70s, infiltrated the Weather Underground. The same people that Obama was hanging out in his youth, and they're talking about killing 25 million people that they couldn't re-educate. They're communists. I keep talking about that's what the Democrat Party is. They're communists. You can't be in the Democrat Party now unless you are for abortion, killing babies, infanticide. That's like Baal worship, you know, where they sacrifice babies. They want to call it tissue, though. And, you know, my favorite new game show is, I'd love to be the game show host of, hey, the new show called, let's call it what it is, Planned Abortionhood. But the Weather Underground infiltrator Larry Garthwald said, he was in an interview and said that they talked openly about they'd have to kill 25 million people. That's back in the 70s. How many would they have to kill now? And you wonder why people don't want to give up their guns? Of course, the communists, the Democrats, want to take away your guns. That's what they want to do. And people, oh, you be over the top call of the Democrats communists. Really? Let's see, they believe in education all the way through to college. That's a communist platform. They believe in socialized medicine, communist platform. Universal basic income, communist. Social justice, communist. Income redistribution, communist. Communism. That's what we're fighting, evil. The party is your God, or until we have good enough AI, and then the AI will be your God, which is bogus. And who do they want on? Because they have no idea to have anybody on. You have this. Here we have. Here in style, this is a magazine called Oprah. Look at what they say. Hello, Madam President. Oprah. Loved on the back, the Oprah. Oprah said, I believe in the beginning of this year, about racism. You know, oh, white people just have to die. They're marinated in racism. Oh, you mean if we don't believe the way you do, and I'm not a racist, you mean we just have to die? What was I just telling you about the communists and about the Weather Underground and wanting to kill 25 million people and about what's going to happen in South Africa? They want to kill white people and take their land? What did I tell you about the communists? And Oprah is so worried about, you know, the level of disrespect to President Obama. You know, they called him a liar, you know, about the State of the Union when he was talking about health care. He did lie. That's not disrespect to holler out the truth. You lie. Because he did. Anybody that disagreed with Obama was a cracker, a racist. Pretty unbelievable. You know, this here, you know, the Madam President, they're just so, they don't have any idea, so they're going to put up the Oprah, right? Just like her. You know, this is the same thing here. See this here? Oh, I love that. Save this. This is Newsweek. They put this out ahead of time, kind of like a Dewey wins, you know. Madam President. There are restrictions. There are limits to the Second Amendment, and there are limits to the First. I heard her say it. Madam President. Yes, I gave away 20% at least of our uranium industry to the Russians. Talk about real collusion. In my unprotected server, because I didn't care who who walked in the door and took a look at it, because they certainly didn't have to hack it. Of course, what does Donald Trump get for a magazine cover? You know, Time magazine with, you know, the horns on his head. Or he gets this. Mad magazine dumps on Trump. And here, this is what Donald Trump gets, even though he's one of the most successful, has one of the most successful years in history. And now he's got even North Korea, which, the last 3 presidents couldn't get North Korea, you know, a new tact, a new talk with North Korea. Now, nothing's going to happen yet, but still, here's how they make out Trump to be some loon, crazy man. But, you know, Oprah, we just believe we don't have any ideas. Just run because you're black. You know, just old white people who are ingrained in racism, you know, in the color of their skin. You know, old white people just have to die. Of course, that's not racist. That's the Oprah. And you take a look at some of the newspapers, again, and they're a bunch of factless, idealists, people. And here here's the USA Today entrainment. And then we have this right here, talking about immigration showdown bills at local level. Cities across the U.S. defy enforcement push. Like, this is like some noble thing. It says angry activists and local officials are fighting President Trump's immigration enforcement efforts by warning ICE raids, staking out courthouses to spy on immigration agents, and offering indefinite sanctuary inside churches. The increasingly visible and vocal opposition comes as courts have snubbed the president's proposals, and they've gotten turned around in the Supreme Court. The mayor of Oakland alerted the entire city last week of impending raids by immigration and custom enforcement agents. We refuse to stand by and let families get ripped apart because of the cruel and backward-thinking federal administration, San Francisco Supervisor Hillary Ronen said Thursday after the city announced government funding for immigration lawyers. Taxpayers are paying for illegal aliens. And incidentally, they warned about ICE agents who were there to pick up criminal aliens. So they'd rather have criminal aliens and bent over backwards for criminal aliens than to make their citizens safe. Sanctuary for who? And who pays for it? That's what Sessions is going after with his lawsuits. But yet the mainstream media, and this should have been marked really, I read the whole story, I'm not going to read it to you anymore. This should have been marked op-ed, but what they're doing, they're passing off their opinions, their left liberal opinions as a news story. They don't even bring up the fact that there are criminal aliens that they alerted that they didn't arrest because of this, and there was 115 felons that that didn't get arrested, that were arrested in this raid, but they had some 800 people they wanted to take down and deport and jail to make things safer. But oh no, we don't want to rip families apart who are here illegally. Here we have, here's another little ditty. I'll just show you how the liars in the press reported this. In the White House, Trump rages in fumes. Listen to the way they named their anonymous source without calling them an anonymous source. Inside the White House, aides over the past week have described an air of anxiety and volatility. Stop right there. What aides? They don't name them in here at all. They don't name them. Just a way for them to have another anonymous source. You know, when you have an anonymous source, you can just make it up because you don't name them. You can misquote them. Nobody knows who they are. You can embellish it. You can just lie. And then what they do with the aides, what aides? Who owns those words? What aides? This is a reprint by the Washington Post, the liars at the Washington Post. You know, democracy dies in the dark. That's their motto. Yeah, it also dies with propaganda and lies and anonymous sources that we don't know who they are. But then they get this McCaffrey, retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey said, the American people and Congress especially should be alarmed. I think the president is starting to wobble in his emotional stability, and this is not going to end well. Really, General McCaffrey? Oh, so you're a four-star general, and you're a psychologist, right? A psychiatrist? Really? And you haven't even examined the president with your fantasy, basically pretend psychiatric prowess? Oh, if you were a doctor, I'd call you a quack. Maybe you're just a quack general, Barry. See what I'm saying about how they did this? They have a complete anonymous source where they talk about, let me get it, there we go. Inside the White House, aides. What aides? They don't ever name them. And then what they do, that's their anonymous source because they can't keep saying anonymous sources. And then they bring on Barry McCaffrey, who trashes the president like he's some sort of a PhD or MD in psychiatry, and which if you don't examine the patient, that's quackery. And then he makes out like he's some expert on mental health, and he hasn't probably even seen the president face to face, Barry McCaffrey. That's what they're doing to try to destroy. That's what they got. Again, you don't hear any ideas, do you? There's no ideas. There's no ideas at all. And here's another one from my local, death toll from guns rises again. Pushing the, we want to disarm you, ma'am. We'd like to disarm you because this is what they do in all communist regimes, all Stalinist regimes, they disarm the public. Hitler disarmed the public. That's what they do. They disarm the public. This is the one I didn't bring up a few weeks ago, but this is more of the lion, and this is they're not even clever when they do it. Some gun lovers are destroying their own weapons. That'd be two. Some. Two. People aren't destroying their guns. You know, you've seen a big bump in NRA membership, and then you also saw stores like Dick's, and please don't shop at Dick's Sporting Goods. You know, you're going to push your politics off on me, Dick's. Don't fly Delta Airlines. Get on the list of all the people that tried to punish the NRA, which is really not just punishing the NRA. I'm not even an NRA member. But they're punishing anybody that don't have their political beliefs, and they decided to punish them. Delta got a pie in the face. They lost a big tax deduction out of Georgia for about $40-something million. So listen, don't shop at Dick's. Don't fly on their airlines. Don't rent, I think it's Alamo Rental Cars or any of those guys, Enterprise. Don't rent their cars. Don't fly their airlines. Don't shop in their stores. Don't do that. Don't reward these people. I want to get into this real quick. I talk to my friend Greg Manarino all the time, and he's, as he's said and as I've said too, is watch the bond market, watch the debt market. The debt market is orders of magnitude bigger than the stock market. But as the bond market goes, so goes the stock market. And he says, go on my site and look at this right here. Just look at it. He says, here's the chart, and let me tell you what this means. He says it's the same thing, pattern over and over again, and some of the buying is unbelievable. Here are the bonds, boom, crashing, and this is the 8th. This is the yesterday. And then here's where they're buying it. Boom! It's just, your eyeballs are just, it's unbelievable, mad buying of bonds. Who would be buying bonds like that? Who would be buying? And then he says, when it goes down again, they start buying again. That's the pattern. It goes down, they buy, it goes down, they buy, it goes down, they buy. He says they're buying bonds like crazy to hold the interest rates down. He says that it's stupefying. He said it's unbelievable, off the chart, the Richter scale, says Greg Manarino. He says, how long can they do that for? He says, I think they're going to try to do it at least through the midterms. If they can, they're going to do it. Finally, I want to get in just one last a couple of things. Number one, Catherine Austin Fitts was just great. What a fabulous interview. Catherine Austin Fitts, Solari.com. She basically was hacked and attacked. She's been attacked in so many different ways. I mean, they've tried to kill her multiple times. Poison her. They did poison her. They tried to kill her. They tried to bankrupt her. They did all kinds of evil stuff to Catherine Austin Fitts, and they still do so because she knows too much. If she was getting it all wrong, they'd laugh at her and they'd leave her alone. But they're attacking her site, Solari.com. I said it would be up after the interview. It was on Wednesday. And I said the site would be up, Solari.com. There's some things in the interview, the pension report that she made public that she sells to people, which is a nice long report that you guys should look at and digest. The other thing is that she has a placeholder page, about the site still under construction. She's working on it. They've attacked her paywall. They've attacked her site. There's all kinds of crazy things that are happening that you can't explain. It's not just glitches. It's just people don't want her to come back up. She's going to come back up. That's what I wanted to tell you. So don't give up on Solari.com. don't give up on Solari.com. Please go to her site when she comes back up and support her and Solari, S-O-L-A-R-I, Solari.com. I want to talk about this executive order. This is the executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption. This was issued December 21st, 2017. In this executive order, the president talked about a national emergency, and he was afraid of the economic system coming under attack from people that were committing serious human rights abuse and corruption. And the list of people that they had on this thing was 13 people long. Foreigners. Now they have the inside, they have a different executive orders and rules and things for people inside the country, and they have this executive order for people outside the country and anybody helping these people, anybody associated with these people. And this is something on treasury.gov, and this is the official foreign assets control, and this is just the first third of the page, right? And they have already listed some of the people. They've made addendums. Do you know how many pages there are now to the list of people that are involved in serious human rights abuse or corruption? And I wrote it, it's 1,100, not people, pages. 1,109 pages as of March 8th of people, property. They are charities. Names of multiple people on multiple countries and continents. They have businesses. There's a section that's basically aircraft they're going to confiscate. It's a huge list. It's 1,100 pages of this type of small line pages of all kinds of people, of all kinds of different countries, manufacturers, different people involved in corruption and or human trafficking. There's been a lot of traffic and a lot of posts with QAnon, and March 11th was going to be some big day, and I don't know, but I know one thing: this executive order is real. The list of people went from 13 to now 1,109 pages of people that they're going to come down on. At some point, the hammer is going to drop. Is it this coming weekend? I don't know, but it's going to come. And the president is not putting out this kind of information in this executive order, which, again, this executive order in December 21st, 2017, he said it was a national emergency, and they had to protect from people who might do harm to the financial system, these same people. And so, folks, a lot of stuff is coming down. I think Jeff Sessions suing the state of California is just the beginning. They're going to go after the illegal voting fraud and election fraud. They're going to go after it. They're going to go after the illegal aliens. They're going to go after it. They're not. I think that when all is said, when Trump said there was 3 to 5 million illegal votes cast, I think he was right on the money. It could be more than that. That Hillary Clinton did indeed not win the popular vote. She did not. You could call it the popular fraud, but again, that's what I think the whole setup is going to be for the biggest try for election and voter fraud that the country has ever seen, because the Democrats got nowhere else to go. I have Kevin Shipp on the early Sunday release. Kevin Shipp, the former CIA agent and whistleblower. I'm gonna ask him a bunch of questions about the stuff that's coming out about QAnon, about this executive order, about the battle between the Trump administration and the New World Order and the deep state and the Democrats and members of his own party. I'm going to ask him about all that. We'll get a good update, and you'll get a good a snapshot of what's going on right now. It'll be Kevin Shipp, the former CIA agent and whistleblower, will be the guest for the early Sunday release. That said, thank you so much for supporting USAWatchdog.com with your comments and your donations. That helps us out. And remember, fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and His Son, Jesus Christ, are firmly in control.